Thank you very much indeed for joining us on France 24. It doesn't look like Boris Johnson got a very warm welcome in Belfast there today, but how would you assess the meeting between Johnson and McDonald? How did it go?
Absolutely. So Boris Johnson met all of the political parties today, as well as the leader of Sinn Fein. And the primary purpose of this visit was to try and convince the parties to go back into government, and primarily to convince the DUP, who is at the moment refusing to enter the executive. Now, it looks like Boris Johnson wasn't successful in his attempts. The DUP have said that they will not enter government at this point. What they want to see is not just words on the UK trying to resolve issues around the protocol, but action. There is now a suggestion that the Foreign Secretary, Liz Truss, will potentially announce some legislation tomorrow to unilaterally override some parts of the protocol, which may go further in addressing the DUP's concerns. But obviously, a lot of the other parties in Northern Ireland, in particular the Nationalist Party and the non-aligned party, the Alliance Party, support the protocol as a means to manage the consequences of Brexit. And so they've been very critical of this suggestion that the UK government might take unilateral action. So overall, not many of the parties left particularly happy with the Prime Minister.
Indeed. I mean, he's got some pretty unenviable choices in front of him. And just help us understand and develop for us this idea about why it is that the Unionists have such an issue with the Northern Ireland Protocol, because some people watching might find this all rather confusing.
Absolutely. So the Northern Ireland Protocol has introduced new checks and controls on goods going from Great Britain to Northern Ireland. The Unionist parties see these kind of trade barriers within the UK as a distancing of Northern Ireland from the rest of the UK, and ultimately their preference is to be closely aligned with the rest of the UK and with Great Britain. Now, there are some practical problems that this is creating in terms of businesses being able to transport goods from Great Britain to Northern Ireland, and also Northern Ireland consumers being able to access certain products that they could before the protocol was introduced. But there is also this constitution principled objection that the DUP have, that they just feel that the protocol is pushing them further away than the rest of the further away from the rest of the United Kingdom and closer to the Republic of Ireland.
And also help us understand why it is, therefore, that scrapping the Northern Ireland Protocol or somehow modifying it, as you say, Liz Truss may in fact end up doing, why that's so risky and so dangerous for stability and peace in Ireland?
Absolutely. So, I mean, on one hand, I think there is a real risk that if the UK takes unilateral action and tries to set expectations that the protocol can be removed, that it might end up disappointing the unionist community, because fundamentally there is still an international agreement there in the terms of the withdrawal agreement. And the only way to get long-term changes to that or long-term tweaks to the way it's applied is through agreement with the EU. So I think that is definitely a risk that the UK government might once again disappoint unionists, and also it's provoking a very strong reaction from a lot of the other parties in the Northern Ireland executive, who see this kind of unilateralism as further increasing both the economic instability, with Northern Ireland not being sure what its long-term trading arrangements are, but also the political instability. And we've heard Sinn Fein in particular accuse the government of pandering to the DUP and kind of tying up a deal with them, when actually it's supposed to be neutral amongst all the political parties in Northern Ireland.
And just lastly, I mean, is there any appetite or any willingness from the EU to try to help broker some sort of a compromise or a solution here, given, as we've been saying, that peace on the island of Ireland could otherwise be in jeopardy?
So the EU did put forward some proposals at the beginning of this year to try and minimise some of those checks and controls that the DUP and other unionists and the UK government object to. But the UK argues that those still don't go far enough. What it wants now is for the EU to change its mandate in talks. So it wants the leaders of the EU 27 to give the Commission more leeway into potentially making actual changes to the terms of the treaty, of the withdrawal agreement and of the protocol. But actually there is a risk that this unilateral action is potentially going to make EU capitals less receptive to that idea, because they're not going to want to be seen to be rewarding bad behaviour and threats, essentially. So it is a risky strategy from the UK government, but hopefully there is the possibility of finding an agreed solution, but it will require political compromises on both sides.